friends, it's Gwen. I'm back today with a stash busting video for you all. Yes, I have this giant stash of odds and bods, all Maggie Holmes supplies. They do not fit in collections. They are definitely random bits and pieces, and I'm going to use them all on this Memorydex file folder system. This is a project that I have been working on for some time now, and I went to go and do some more work on it today, and I thought, why not bring you all along with me? Here's a quick look at all of the dies that I'll be using. These are Heidi Swap brand. She does now have a punch so that you can have any shape you like and then just punch out the tabs at the bottom. But I am old school and I'm going to be using the actual dies to fit the Memorydex for my project. I have a few sheets left in this 6x6 paper pad. This one is Chasing Dreams, and I'm just going to use up the papers that I like. I can really only get one of the Memorydex cards out of each 6x6 paper, but I will keep the leftover bits because they're great for layering. I will need to cut two of each of the designs because I do back them like so. With the Rolodex, because it rolls around in a circle and can go either clockwise or anti-clockwise, I am decorating both sides of the cards, and I kind of made it a rule for this project that each side of the card will be a different pattern paper. So I am really mixing and matching my patterns for this project. I cannot tell you how many supplies I've been able to use up just on this one project. It's been so fun to create, and I've been able to work on it sort of 20 minutes at a time, using up some scraps and then just building on it over what's been years. I started this maybe a year and a half ago, and just every time I kind of had a little bit of a stash of leftover supplies from my Maggie stash, I would set aside 20 minutes, half an hour, and I would make up a couple of cards. The plan for today was to create these 4 cards. I did, however, get a little bit sidetracked, but I'll show you that as we go. I've really tried to keep this project very simple. It was always created as a way for me to use up little bits and pieces of supplies, and if I'm perfectly honest, I never actually intended to share it with you. It was something that I wanted to do just for fun and just for me. Often I find, because I share a lot of my projects on social media and here of course on YouTube, there's an element of pressure that comes with that. Like, I only want to share with you guys my best work. So sometimes that can feel a little bit overwhelming. And this project, because it was always just something for me, whenever I felt a little bit uninspired or I didn't have very much time or I was worried about how my creating mojo was, I could just jump in and do this, and I've really enjoyed that process. I started with 100, I think, about 100 photos of my daughter, all taken between the ages of her birth, 0, and 10 years old. And I believe I did 10 per year, so 10 photos between 0 and 1, 10 photos between 1 and 2, and so on. And that's what started it. That, and then all these leftover Maggie Holmes supplies. I've mentioned in some of my previous videos that I only ever create now with a single collection. I don't mix and match collections anymore. I just find it so much easier for me just to work with a collection, a group of things that are already curated by the amazing people at American Crafts or Simple Stories or Cocoa Vanilla, and I don't have to do that hard work anymore. So I do stick with collections. So I had a bunch of Maggie Holmes supplies, which I did show you at the start of the video, where as a group of them, like there was quite a lot there, but if I split them out into collections, there wasn't really enough to make a layout that I knew that I would love. So I had actually been just hoarding them, and they'd just been sitting in that box. It was a box of random Maggie supplies. All of those collections were from many years ago, so 2016-ish time frames. And it was at a point, I came to a point where I knew I wasn't going to make big layouts with them. So I decided to use them all in this project. I have been working in batches, so same as today, making between 4 and 8 cards per sitting. And essentially I cut the bases out first, as I showed earlier. And now I'm just going to have a play and enjoy the paper layering process. I will start with larger pieces first. So something maybe like a large die cut or a scrap of pattern paper to begin with. And then I'll layer in medium-sized die cuts and then smaller die cuts to create layers. I have seen some crazy detailed memory decks cards online. They are beautiful. For this project though, I did want to keep things pretty simple. I feel like the thickest one or the most layered one maybe has 4 layers. I really just wanted a simple and clean design because I knew it was going to take me a while. Like, I've spent a lot of hours putting this together, but I also wanted it to be something that I could work in small chunks of time. I wanted to be able to sit down for half an hour and make 4 cards, pop them into the memory decks, and then it might be a month later before I was able to repeat that process. So as I've been chatting away, I did start with those 4 cards in mind. However, the memory decks was actually on my desk. Most of the time it's not, but because it was sitting there, I started to remember that there was some cards in here that had not been decorated yet. There were some blank sides. And I did have quite a few of the embellishments pulled out of their little bags. And you know what? I kind of got on a bit of a mission. I decided that today was the day that I was going to get most of these supplies used up. So I ended up spending several hours, I think it was about 4 all up, just going bit by bit through the cards that were already on the holder there and adding little bits and pieces, using up those supplies, adding little stickers here and there, and finishing off a couple of those cards that were blank but had been put into the memory decks itself. I went back and forth between creating the new cards, and then when I found an embellishment that would not work on the new card, I just flicked through the memory decks and found a spot for it on a card that already was there. And I kept going until no stickers were left. Oh, that was so satisfying. I was able to get so many die cuts and stickers used up on this day. I was like in the zone. The thing is too, there are still some cards in the memory decks itself that have no embellishments on them yet. So I still have room for growth. I still have some work to do to completely finish this project. I know that the memory decks cards have sort of lost a little bit of popularity lately, but I'm going to bring them back. I had so much fun making this project, and now my mind is racing with what else could I do in this same way. I feel like it's the perfect project when I want to make something but I don't have an hour and a half to make a layout. This could be really good for a scrapbook retreat as well, I think. And it's, for me, it has hands down been the best way and the fastest way to use up a bunch of supplies that wouldn't normally go together. If I stick with any of the Maggie Holmes collections, I know that's kind of the connecting point, and I'm kind of ended up with this beautiful eclectic mix of all sorts of things that all go together but they're not perfectly matched. You could make one for any of your favorite manufacturers. So back to the creating, I didn't actually have a lot of chipboard left over. Most of the bits and pieces that I have are die cuts and stickers. So I am using a lot of 3D foam tape just to get a little bit of dimension happening. I am also making sure to add a fairly strong liquid adhesive. As this is going to be handled a little bit, you're going to scroll through the memory decks, obviously. I want to make sure everything is glued down pretty solidly. This stash of stickers too has lost quite a lot of their stickiness, so I want to make sure that everything is nice and secure. I'm classing this sticker sheet as done now as well. Yay! And guess what, friends? I actually ended up throwing the rest of those away. There was only a giant piano that I know I will never use. There was a silhouette of a woman, which again, I knew I would never use. So I was pretty ruthless. This was the day that I was going to get a lot of those sticker sheets used up and gone. I'm showing you here the stitching that I've added to each of the cards. I stitched on all 4 of the new ones. Not every card in the memory decks itself is stitched, but most of them are. I think it adds to the homemade feel of the project, and I feel it's very Maggie. A vintage style really suits this kind of project because the memory decks was actually based on the old-fashioned roller decks. So we used to use these back in the day for keeping track of clients or business cards. And it's so fun that that's been converted into something that we can collect memories with and make little memory cards and add them in the same way. So it's time to add the new cards into the memory decks, and I'm going to call this project done for today. If you're looking for even more stash busting ideas, be sure to check out this playlist here. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments below. Thanks so much for being here, my creative friends. If you like the way that I scrapbook or the way that I chat about the way that I scrapbook, I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up. I've got so much more to share with you coming very, very soon. I will see you all in the next video. Until then,